Discombobulated here. I have some thoughts. I escaped the city job, and it's kind of funny how it wound up because I gave a 2 weeks notice, and then on Monday the warden said because of the holiday that we didn't have work on Friday and only had a half day Thursday. And so part of me was like, oh, well, that's good because, it's just less time there. But at the same time, I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm gonna miss like 9 hours of pay. And then I was just kind of thinking about it some more. Well, it's just funny how the holidays suck for me almost always, both as a handyman, because people don't want you coming over to work on a holiday. I never have any money to do something great on a holiday. And then there's always like shopping complications. For example, the grocery store gets crowded and stuff like that. I just feel like no matter what, it always pans out that the holiday is a big pain in the ass, And then there, like on Memorial Day, we got dismissed early. And at first I was like, oh, that's good. But then I realized, wow, my paycheck's not going to be 80 hours. It's just going to be 78 hours or whatever it was. And then how for the July 4th, because the seasonal employees don't get holiday pay, you just end up just missing out on a whole day's pay. But the way the warden put it to me was like, oh, well, seasonals don't get holiday pay. But we don't even get work or pay for that day at all. So you just get a paycheck that's, in my case, it would have been minus 9 hours, which is 10% of my whole paycheck. So it's just a really screwy setup when you're like a seasonal employee. And then just thinking a little bit more about that, how I got myself into that job. Well, first of all, I was really desperate at that time. And so I would have taken anything. And then I was grateful when I first got the job too. But I had really hoped that it was the kind of place where when you started working, that you'd have a foot in the door at the city, and then it would lead to a better job at the city. But I realized that because it's a small city that's not growing, the existing employees, they're just camping out there like toads on a log, and they ain't never going to leave, so there ain't never going to be any openings there. So that idea was bad, and, well, let's just say sad, So it's a bummer that job wouldn't lead to another job, Now, it could maybe lead to another job at another city. I had applied, but even that, I don't know, because I had applied at another city job, and then because there's a lot of nepotism and people that know other people in the city jobs, that other city called the city I worked for and talked to one of my uppers there, and I heard they were like, somebody said, oh, did you apply at Bountiful City Water Department or something like that? And I was like, well, I think so, but I kind of couldn't remember because I'd applied for a lot of stuff, but I don't think that person gave me a good review. Maybe it was because of the birds, maybe because I hadn't been around there enough, but just because of the way those particular cities were sort of interconnected with relatives and, brother-in-laws or father-in-laws or something like that going on, that even got complicated for me there. So, and then, at that low base rate, that's $16.50 an hour, when you then have a holiday comes along and then you don't get a day's pay on top of that, it really sinks your paycheck, but I was grateful, to have that job, having that city paycheck, helped me to take care of a lot of things, and just get some basics in place. It's weird because that paycheck seemed like it went further than the paycheck I was getting from that last job, even though the paycheck was more. It was like somehow my life was costing me more or something. Maybe I had just whittled everything down, and that's this time, just like never eating out, that kind of thing. And then I was just thinking about how when you get disgruntled at a job, like I got disgruntled at that city job. I didn't like the manager with her man-spreading or sitting in the chair backwards, and just her general demeanor or style. I just found it really off-putting, and the whole thing with the birds. And that ended up even ticking me off more because she closed the park so that they could spray chemicals. And I was like, wow, man, she'll close the park for like a week so that they can spray, but she wouldn't close it for 3 or 4 days so the ducks' eggs hatched, but so the ducklings could escape, and so the killdeer babies could escape, and I just hated her for that. I just hated her for that. Luckily, she wasn't there on my last day. They had a little pizza party, and they had cheesecake and pizza for me at lunchtime, and everybody was really nice. And it was kind of bittersweet. You get kind of comfortable at a place, and, I had kind of had that routine, and, riding the train, and then sometimes taking the bus, and me and that bus driver got to be friends, and then some walking, or sometimes just more walking, and, working at those particular parks, cleaning those same bathrooms over and over. It had become a pretty comfortable rut, and, and then I'm going to miss Johnny, of course, and so that was kind of hard, leaving him. But, so then what I did was we found out on Monday that we were going to have this Friday and a half a day yesterday, and I just started thinking about it. I was like, wow, I really should just try to get out of there sooner, because I didn't want to drive there for just a half a day. A half a day work there, I only made $66 before taxes, and then I had the commute and the walking and all that other stuff. So I was like, I'd rather not work Thursday. And then I knew Johnny was leaving on vacation on Wednesday, so I was like, I don't want to have to work alone without Johnny, so it'd be best if I could just wind things up tomorrow. So I just sent the warden a text, which reminds me of this that phrase that people are using now. Instead of calling, they say they're reaching out. Like, everybody was always reaching out to everybody at that last job. They'd be like, oh, I reached out to so-and-so, or, oh yeah, I need to reach out to him. And so instead of just saying I need to call somebody, everybody says they need to reach out now. And it's partly because there was that old AT&T commercial that the jingle was like, reach out and touch someone. And then once the advent of messaging and emails and stuff, so you wouldn't have to specify how you were going to contact somebody, you could just say you were going to reach out. But I think it's retarded. But anyways, instead of calling her, I decided just to reach out. And so I sent her a text message that said, well, since my hours got cut, and coming in for a half day really doesn't work for me financially, and I have another project that I could get going, I'm just going to go ahead and make tomorrow my last day. So I bailed on Tuesday, and I'm glad I did for a lot of reasons, but I've been able to kind of start getting my tools together for my new job, and I had a couple things to finish up on the motorcycle, which is back in action now. I'm super excited about that. And then I had to do some stuff on the old truck here too, like change the fuel filter, and it's not running real great. I think it needs a new set of points and condenser, and maybe a couple other things too. But I also need a spare tire for this truck. And, well, I'm just going to have to do some work on the truck because I'm going to have to depend on it to get to work now. And I was thinking about when I got that job. I had been unemployed for, I don't even know how long. I don't remember now. I think 9 months. Or was it 6 months? It was a long time. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was probably 9 months. Because I was on unemployment for like 6 months. Well, whatever it was too long, And so and then I wasn't hearing back from anybody, and so when I got that job, I was real thankful. And then I became disgruntled. But so I was thinking, there's this other podcaster that I listen to sometimes. His name's Adam Carolla, kind of a famous guy. But he was talking about being disgruntled and how you can be pre-gruntled or post-gruntled. And I was thinking how I was pre-gruntled when I started there. I was just thankful to have a job. I knew the pay wasn't that great, but I thought it might lead to other things. And I was just happy to be getting any paycheck, happy to be able to buy some groceries, you know. But that pre-gruntled stage doesn't last for a super long time. Like, it lasted for maybe like 3 weeks. And then, you know, like the low pay starts to hit home with you. Like you hear about McDonald's paying 19, or I heard of the In-N-Out Burger pays 21. And I was just like, oh man, I'm really down here at the bottom of the barrel, you know. And so it takes a toll on you sort of mentally. And then just the menial tasks, you know, although cleaning the bathroom never did bother me, there were some other tasks there that bothered me, like whenever the kids would swing on the swing, it would dig out the mulch underneath, which they call soft fill. And then you'd have to rake all that mulch back in there. I always thought it was super stupid because the kids can't swing when all that mulch is there. Their feet need somewhere to dangle when they're sweeping back through. So every time we come and push it all back in, we're basically running the swinging. And it just seemed like it's just like stupid. You know, the kids scoop it out. We come along, we rake it back in. And there were just other tasks like that I just thought, oh man, what has my life become, you know? And so then I went through that pre-gruntled stage, and then I became disgruntled. And then that really started with the bird thing, you know, and then my manager's attitude. I really started to dislike her. And then the more I disliked her, the more disgruntled I was, until finally I was in full-blown resentment. And then, but I wasn't the only one who, you know, and then how we had all started calling her the Warden and stuff, which was a fitting title. And then now that I'm gone from there, I'm what you would call post-gruntled. And I'm just like relieved to not be there anymore. I feel like it's sad that I had to go and work that job for such little pay. You know, not that I'm above it, but I've already had to do that a lot of different times over the past, let's say, 20 years. You know, just take a really crummy, low-paying job because I was real desperate. You know, I remember there in Florida, I had this job where I had to follow behind guys that were cutting down trees and palm trees and pick up all the, you know, everything that had been cut, and then throw it in the wood chipper on this golf courses. So it was just a never-ending grind and it was hot and humid, and then my co-workers were Guatemalans and an uppity Mexican, and oh man, the list of bad jobs I've worked since I was a wedding photographer, they just go on and on. And so now I'm coming up on another new job, this job for the remodeling contractor. And I have pretty high hopes about it. You know, I'm in the pre-gruntled stage where I'm just sort of optimistic. I'm interested to see what my coworkers are like. The guy had mentioned something to me about, what was it? Something about Mexicans. So I got the feeling that there aren't going to be any Mexicans working there, which is a relief for me. I really hope that's true, and I'd really be relieved if that was the case. I'm hoping that my coworkers will be nice and decent guys. I don't even know how many there are. And then $23 an hour, that'll be the most money I've made at a regular hourly job since I've been in Utah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the most I've made since I've quit doing wedding photography, which is kind of weird. um, yeah, I think maybe that's true. So that's a pretty big jump up in pay for me. And then the only drawback is, now gas and wear and tear on the truck. But I learned that I don't have to take all my big tools like my compressor and my cut-off saw or chop saw, and I just need my basic hand tools, and I might be able to do that on the motorcycle. So that would be pretty cool. The cat hairs are on me here. And so I'm pretty excited about the new job, and I'm just kind of hoping that I can keep up, that I'll feel good and energetic, be able to make it through my days. Being 58 years old, and I had another job interview at that other well drillers, and I'm pretty sure he didn't call me back because he felt like I was old. And then the fact is I am old, and it's still hard for me to accept that and get that through my head, that I'm 58. And when I've been watching some other videos of people who are working crummy jobs and they're older and wish that they were retired, and they'll say like they're 57 or they're, in their early 50s. And I feel like, yeah, they're old. Like when I look at them, they seem old. But when I think about myself, for some reason, it seems different. I still feel like maybe, I don't know, like in my 40s or something. But I definitely don't feel 58 in the brain. And but I do get tired more. And I do wish I didn't have to go to work every day. It'd be a lot better if I could just be going fishing or walking around out in the desert, hunting arrowheads, or just seeing the sights here in Utah, riding my motorbike around. But at the same time, I feel like I got a lot left in me, and there's still a lot of stuff I want to do. There's still a lot of carpentry stuff I want to do, and so I just feel like kind of like, don't count me out yet. I still have a few good years left, hopefully. And but I am wondering too, like, okay, what am I gonna do? How long am I gonna work? And then, I'm still down here at the bottom, living in my camper with I got my old truck and an old motorbike, and no savings, no retirement plan, and no plan really, except for just to kind of keep trying to grind. And but that seems like not a very good plan. And then I'm thinking, well, what are going to be my new goals now? I need some goals, like, maybe fix up the old truck some more so that then it could haul the camper. And then I could, just do camper life later, like live on BLM land and live off of disability or Social Security, or I don't know. Even when I just think about it, it's just depressing. And I'm thinking too, even when I first started coming on YouTube and whining and complaining about my situation and my work life and my job life, and talking about that marginal decade, how I felt like I was in the last 10 years of my life. Well, that was like 2 years ago. And so that means I got like 8 years of life left. And then the air quality here, I figured, was taking off another year. So technically that leaves me with 7. But maybe if I get out of here, I can get my lungs to repair themselves somewhere out in Oregon or something. But at the same time, I feel like the whole world's turning to shit, with all these data centers and all the wildlife's getting killed off, and inflation, and the everybody just being so weird and into their phones and like robots, and nobody talks to anybody. And then am I ever gonna find another woman? Is that even possible? It seems like, oh, I got cat hairs on me. It seems like there must be some woman out there somewhere who I could be right for, but at the same time, I feel like, well, the chances of that are pretty slim, you know. I think if my financial situation was better, let's say if I was a millionaire overnight, that I could probably score a woman. But even then, it would not be that easy. And I don't know. I don't know. If I got my teeth fixed, I feel like that would help. But there's nothing you can do about this face or this hair anymore. So just kind of stuck with that. People have been telling me lately I look like Anthony Hopkins. And not just lately. When I worked at Applebee's in a Cracker Barrel, once in a while somebody would say, hey, you look like that Silence of the Lamb guy. And I'd be like, what? You know, and then, but yeah, I think that's Anthony Hopkins. Am I getting that name right? I think so. But then it happened to me at my city job. This guy said, hey, did anybody ever tell you you look like the Silence of the Lambs guy? And I was like, yeah, I get that all the time. So, I guess it's not the worst look in the world. It's just kind of a fat moon-facey look or something, or I don't even know. So I just don't know. The future seems really uncertain, but I feel optimistic and I feel better now that I've escaped that city job and I'm onto some new adventure, you know, and I'm glad that I didn't just stay in that comfortable rut there, because it wasn't that comfortable. I mean, it would be sometimes, but overall, I had this like sort of aching, yearning feeling like I should be doing something else, or like, you know, I'm underemployed here. This job sucks. The pay sucks, and you know, I can't even build anything, and you know, my talents are being wasted. The last years of my life are being wasted, you know, and so I don't know if any of that's making any sense. I kind of think that the last mushroom trip did me some good too. I just kind of feel like it somehow like tweaked me in a way that stabilized me a bit, or gave me like a sort of day-to-day feeling betterness that I can't put my finger on. Like less depressed, less gray, maybe less feelings about the past, you know, and still I'm worried about my parents quite a bit. I'm really, for some reason, I really get this feeling like my dad's gonna die, and I'm super scared of that, you know. I mean, he's older, and I know we're all gonna die, so I just don't know how I'm gonna handle it, you know. I just feel like I'm not ready for that kind of thing. I always imagined that my life would be more stable, that my job would be better, my financial situation, so that I would have enough of a foundation that a huge loss like that wouldn't really take me down, you know. So I don't know. I just really don't know. But I'm going to keep going with the mushroom therapy. This weekend wasn't really a possibility of too much going on. And that's what can be another weird thing. I'm not going to have early Fridays anymore. But, well, I feel like I'm rambling now. Well, thanks for listening to me.